Good evening and welcome back to Capitol Tonight, a statewide look at politics. I'm Tim Boehm. It is Thursday. We continue our conversations with lawmakers from across the state. Another busy week. Senate leaders unveil their teacher pay plan. Charlotte chooses not to vote for potential repeal of its LGBT ordinance and beyond. Joining us this week for more, State Representative Democrat Duane Hall from Wake County and Scott Stone, a Republican House member from Mecklenburg County, was just appointed this month. Good to see you, gentlemen. Welcome to the program.
Good to be here.
Last time I saw you, we were doing a Republican mayoral debate in Charlotte. Things have changed a little bit.
We were. Apparently, I did not win.
You did not, but you won an appointed position here.
Yeah.
You're in the race for this fall as well. Welcome to the program. How's it been going for you?
It's been really an interesting process. It's been great to see the behind the scenes, how it actually all works. I will say that contrary to what you might see on Facebook or in the media, people get along much better than you'd expect, because if you just only look at Facebook, you'd think everyone hates everybody and all that. But it's been an interesting process, and the budget process has been very interesting to see how that comes together. And really, I think we're going to have a great budget that we're going to pass here in a few weeks.
Is it overwhelming? Is it a lot? Or is it
The short session has helped, the fact that there's a lot less things to talk about, so it's been probably a good starting point. So it'll give me a head start next year, hopefully, is providing we're successful in the fall.
Is he in a honeymoon period, or does everybody get along better than we think?
I wish him well. My first session, I talked a lot and passed one bill. My second session, I kept my mouth shut and passed 6. So
maybe some good
I'm
advice,
not trying to give you
right?
advice, but
I have learned what not to do in some cases, not from my own mistakes, but just watching some others. So
sometimes learning what not to do is the best.
I try
thing
to
learn
avoid
of
speaking
all.
too much.
All right, so let's talk about something that's happened just in the last day and a half. There's this group supposedly is going to try to broker some sort of compromise about this HB2 situation. Jim Martin, former governor, Dennis Wicker, former lieutenant governor, and Art Pope, a Republican funder, as we know. Representative Hall, do you think this could lead to a broker deal of some sort? Obviously, the important players, Charlotte City Council and the legislature, have to get on board.
I hope so. Discussions are always great. I mean, those are powerful people. Discussion so far, it's done a lot. It's raised awareness. I know a lot more than I did before. But big groups like this, they take time. It's going to take time to work things out. We don't have that much time. North Carolina is losing jobs every day. We need to repeal HB2. I am the co-sponsor of 2 of the bills and the primary sponsor of 1 bill. We pass this thing in a couple hours. We can repeal it in 1 hour. We could do this Tuesday morning and stop the bleeding, stop the job loss. Happy to take my name off and put Representative Stone's name on there, give him credit for it if you'd like to go ahead and get this done Tuesday morning.
Do you think there's a group like this could make some movement?
I don't think it's necessarily this group per se. I think as much as anything else, it's going to be Charlotte City Council that has to make the first move on this. They're the ones that created this in the first place. If not but for the Charlotte City Council and Mayor Jennifer Roberts, we would not be talking about HB2. This was something that came about as a response to the Charlotte City Council, and I think they need to show that they're willing to compromise before any discussions happen in the legislature.
So what's interesting is this is what the problem is, right? We have
No.
They need to act first.
No.
No, they need to act first. But so again, is there a middle ground if one side agrees to do one thing and the other promises to do the other?
I think there's probably middle ground, but that really upsets me to put the blame on Charlotte. I mean, for extending equal rights, something more than 100 cities across America have already done. And to blame them, I mean, not one company, not one job was lost because of that city ordinance. They're pouring out of North Carolina because of HB2, not because of what Charlotte did.
Well, there's certainly 2 sides to this. So I think that the other thing that has impacted this is that the president he's taken the most controversial things about Charlotte's city ordinance and then broadened it and applied it nationwide to every school across the country, and now we've got 11 states that filed lawsuits against the federal government. It made it harder if there was to be a compromise. I don't know if there would be or not, but it made it harder for some people to get on a compromise because you've got the President of the United States being so heavy-handed in trying to apply this to every school all across the country.
So this does seem to, I mean, just the discussion we're having, and it does seem to make it clear that any sort of compromise would be very difficult at the least.
I want to, but you're right. My heart's beating faster just talking about it. I mean, again, try to blame on the president. In this story about the work group, there was a video of McCrory yesterday, and he called on Congress to clarify who is protected under the Civil Rights Act. I'm upset that you would even have to have that conversation. You're essentially asking the federal government to give us a list of who we can and cannot discriminate against. I mean, we shouldn't discriminate against anyone. We shouldn't have to ask questions like that. We shouldn't countersue the federal government for our right to discriminate, which is what happened a couple weeks ago.
Well, but in fairness, the federal government already has a list of what is considered a protected class by the Department of Labor, and gender identity was not a protected class by that standard. So that's where some of this comes from. Some on the other side of this issue are trying to assume that certain things are already fact when they're not. So, there's been a lot of extrapolation of taking one standard and extrapolating to others.
Go ahead.
I was about to get into the weeds about strict intermediate scrutiny in law school, and
we're
making distinctions based upon sex, and that's what this is.
Yeah, the definition of sex as a protected
Gender,
class
yes.
is really the basis of where this is going to go on a federal standpoint. Let's move on to another topic for a minute. The budget, which you mentioned, and the House has passed. The Senate is expected to unveil theirs next week. I wasn't sure. I thought it was going to be a fairly easy process, but this Senate teacher pay proposal is huge. I mean, do you expect this to be a fairly quick process and easy, or is this going to be an elongated process?
You've been through it several times like me. It's going to change. It's going to change a lot. I've seen the same thing happen before. They just supposedly proposed a 13% increase for teachers, which the House and the Senate's already agreed to a cap. And the revenue coming in this year is $1.3 billion less than last year. So the question is, where is the money going to come from? What I'm afraid is going to happen is what we've seen in the past, that it's obviously going to be taken from somewhere else, and you're going to end up pitting one group against another, like we've done state employees against teachers. A similar thing happened in 2014 when they proposed an 11% increase, and it turned out a lot of that was coming from Medicaid recipients and teachers' assistants.
Of course, you also had a House Speaker running for U.S. Senate that year, which complicated things, a whole different story. And I know you're brand new to this process, and you haven't seen exactly what the Senate's going to do, but what are your expectations heading into next week and beyond as this happens? Yeah,
well, look, I think everybody's got this, in the House and the Senate leadership both want similar things. It's just where the numbers end up falling out. We do have a cap that we've agreed to. With the House budget, only had 12 Democrats voting against it, so there's a lot of things in there to like. Teacher pay increased dramatically already, 5% for that middle tier. We now will have $1.4 billion in a rainy day fund, which is extraordinary if you look at where we came from 4 years ago when Governor McCrory took office and when the Republicans took over the legislature 2 years before that. So really we've made some great strides. Tax cuts for basically the middle class will see a tax cut. It's just a matter of how quickly they get to it and all that. So really it comes down to, if they accelerate certain things, the Senate, meaning, where is it coming from? I've not heard that the cap would be lifted on what the $330 million surplus that we've created.
Yeah, and I can imagine the Senate would do that as well. All right, guys, it goes by quickly. I know you said every time it goes by so fast.
I've got more.
I know. We will have to do an after show, but good to see you guys. Enjoy the long weekend. Thank you so much.